A pleasant day to everyone. I will be reporting the accumulated articles that I have retrieved from different review journals on the dietary fiber utilization among non-ruminant animals. Before I start with the various articles that I have studied for this presentation, I will just give some introduction about dietary fiber. So when we see dietary fiber, based on my readings, di ba meron tayong six classes of nutrients. Pero dun sa isang article that I have read about it, kino-consider si dietary fiber as a common nutrient sa diet ng mga swine, most especially sa mga sows, and they are calling it as the seventh most important nutrient. So meaning to say, the dietary fiber is an important component of all but a few feedstuffs used in the feeding of non-ruminants. Usually, etong dietary fiber, all throughout my presentation, karamihan sa mga ito will be focused on microbial digestion since this is resistant to digestion by endogenous enzymes in the small intestine. That is why they are becoming the main substrate for bacterial fermentation, particularly on the large intestine. We can see that the dietary fiber utilization has an important role in non-ruminants, most specifically sa mga pig and poultry diets, and a minimum level of dietary fiber has to be included to maintain normal physiological function in the digestive tract. So first is we have the review on fiber digestion in non-ruminant animals and the effect of it sa mga pigs. This is the interaction between the dietary fiber and microbiota among mga pigs natin, most specifically sa mga sows, and on how it is the metabolism and their reproductive performance. Ito po for this part is a compilation of various studies since this is a review article. So yung mga authors na to, they have reviewed the interaction between yung laman po ng report ko will be the interaction between yung dietary fiber and yung gut microbes in the regulation ng sows na gut microbial activity as well as yung intestinal na immune system. And then I will be showing also some of the milk composition or yung lactation mismo and yung production performance with the aim na makapag-provide ng new strategy for the use of dietary fiber sa diet ng mga baboy. So for this review article, there are some important aspects that the authors have focused on it. So first are the changes of gut microbiota composition during different stages of pregnancy. So for this one, there is a concern from the relationship between pregnancy and yung mga gut microbes. So yung mga gut microbes, they play an important role in the function and health of their host, such as yung nutrient metabolism and absorption as a good example for it. So it says here that the increase of gestational age, the alpha diversity of gut microbiota is also increased. So interestingly, yung dietary fiber does not only increases yung satiety ng animals but they also improve the reproductive performance ng animals. So Kong et al. And Jing et al. They analyze the ileal and colonic luminal microbiota composition ng mga Huanjiang mini pigs during pregnancy. And based from their results, from the first to third trimester of pregnancy, yung dominant na bacteria na nasa colon daw ng mga pigs ay yung mga firmicutes and bacterioids. As well as may mga nakita din sila na lactobacillus at mga Clostridium. And yung Firmicutes and Proteobacteria, they are dominant in the ileum. And from the 45th to 75th day of pregnancy, yung number ng mga microorganisms na to in the ileum usually decrease, which is in contrast from the Proteobacteria na nag-increase. Etong mga Proteobacteria, they are mga sila itong mga pathogenic bacteria wherein yung significant increase ng mga to, pag nag-increase itong mga Proteobacteria na to doon sa mismong ileum, that would be a good indicator na merong ileal inflammation based doon sa studies ng mga different authors. So etong mga pagbabago na to ng mga gut microbes could further regulate the metabolism ng mismong animal. So si Huang et al. Analyzed the gut microbe characteristics ng mga sows from the late pregnancy, that is, pag sinabi natin late pregnancy, doon sa study nila, that is 5 days before the delivery, until to the postpartum, which is within 6 hours after delivery. So, yung results nila is that yung ratio ng bacteriodes to firmicutes and yung abundance ng Prevotella also were significantly reduced, while yung lactobacillus was significantly increased. So based from these results, parang predict nila the functional capacities ng mga gut microbes wherein they associated it to glycan biosynthesis as well as yung amino acid metabolism, of which it was significantly decreased. However, yung carbohydrate at saka lipid metabolism, yun ang nag-increase with the aid of the microbes from the dietary fiber utilization of this house. So we can see here that the interaction of gut microbes at different stages of pregnancy usually affects the metabolism ng mismong animal, which may increase now the nutrient metabolism and yung lactation performance nila. Now, second one is the dietary fiber regulates the abundance and diversity of sow gut microbes. So for this one, the dietary fiber has an intimate relationship with the intestinal microbes. So generally, the dietary fiber is being classified into two. So we have the soluble tsaka yung insoluble fibers. Now, according to Maki et al. In 2018, soluble fiber such as yung inulin, if we try to recall yung presentation ko po noon sa carbohydrates, so one example for it is the inulin, wherein these are hard or difficult to be digested doon sa mouth, doon sa stomach, and even sa mga small intestine. That is why for these kind of fibers, they are transported in the large intestine or in the hindgut as intact molecules, and they are being broken down by coliform, which usually produces a small amount of energy. Now, for the insoluble fiber, which is one example ay yung cellulose, these are difficult to be fermented by intestinal microbes, which could enhance yung intestinal health by promoting intestinal parasites. So, the dominant responders in the hindgut to break down etong mga dietary fiber ay yung mga firmicutes and actinobacteria. So of course, the digestibility of these fibers could be different in the different breeds of sows. That is from Liu et al. In 2019, wherein they have compared the performance of Rongchang pig and then yung landrace, and they have found out that the Rongchang sows, they are more capable of digesting high fiber feeds compared doon sa mga landrace, wherein it was found out in their study and even with other studies that Rongchang sows have the presence of Ruminococcicae as a microorganism na tumutulong etong mga pigs na to in digesting the fibrous materials in their gut. Now, in connection to this one, the difference in dietary fiber and yung gut microbe sensitive usually determine the complex microbial system ng mismong gut. And it says here that there is a close relationship between the gut microbiota composition and the apparent digestibility of crude fiber. That is from Sapok et al. 2015. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? The dietary fiber is the main source of energy for gut microbiota, which means that adding or supplementing an appropriate amount of dietary fiber in their diet can increase yung abundance ng specific microorganism that could help in digesting this fibrous material. So, very important yung role ng dietary fiber since it also increases yung proportion ng mga beneficial na bacteria and tumutulong sila na i-reduce yung proportion ng pathogenic bacteria that could invade doon sa gut mismo ng mga animals. Now, in addition to the effect of dietary fiber on gut microbiota and microbials, it says here that according to Williams et al. In 2001, dietary fiber affects fermentation in the GIT by stimulating the growth or metabolism of special bacterial species. So parang ang binibigay nitong point is that the source of dietary fiber affects the digestion site and gut environment, which now affect the conditions for the proliferation of microbiota in the gut mismo. Since there are a lot of studies that are telling na yung dietary fiber serves as an energy source for microbes and supports their proliferation. Although there are some points wherein contrasting yung results nila either at the negative side or at the positive side. But it suggests that there is some kind of adaptation of the microbiota in the pig intestines when they are fed with high dietary fiber diets. So according to Williams also, yung mismong dietary fiber meron siyang vital role in the function of the pig's gastrointestinal tract. So based on their study nila ni Williams, merong positive role si dietary fiber in controlling bacterial infections, particularly on the reduction of post-weaning diarrhea. Also, another study from Thompson et al. In 2007, na-observe nila na with the inclusion ng dietary fiber, there is a complete protection against doon sa development ng swine dysentery or yung hemorrhagic diarrhea along with the mucus mismo ng intestine. So, similar lang to sa isang study din na nabasa ko na yung inclusion ng dietary fibers sa mga piglets usually enhances the intestinal populations of beneficial bacteria such as yung lactobacilli SPP at the cost of harmful bacteria. And as what I've said, there is a reduced incidence of severe diarrhea. So based from these findings, it can be summarized na yung presence ng dietary fiber sa gut ng pigs ay nakakaapekto sa gut microbial environment, which now creates a more favorable na lumen condition for gut health. Pero in some cases, there is a possibility still na merong negative impact on the gut health. Pero nakadepende naman na to on the type of fiber substrate na available for fermentation. However, meron ako nabasa na sinasabi niya na wala pang straightforward na answer ng mga benefits na to ng dietary fiber sa gut health and merong lacking on direct evidence for enhanced resistance to unfavorable na conditions. Now, to clearly assess yung mismong figure sa influence ng soluble at insoluble na dietary fiber on the digestion and absorption processes sa mga various segments of the gastrointestinal tract, yung soluble as well as insoluble na dietary fiber usually provide a substrate for fermentation by the microflora in the large intestine. Since yung presence ng soluble na dietary fiber in the diet increases yung digestive viscosity. So, yung soluble DF or the dietary fiber is readily fermentable, wherein the major part is broken down in the cecum and proximal colon, while yung insoluble na dietary fiber, this is being degraded at more distal locations. Now, if we try to assess it, may mga carbohydrates such as yung mga fructose containing na oligo tsaka polysaccharides na may ability to stimulate lactic acid bacteria such as yung lactobacillus na sinabi ko kanina. So, ang physiological explanation nito is that etong lactic acid bacteria, okay, etong lactic acid bacteria na to, beneficial siya in the sense na it serves as attachment ng mga harmless bacteria doon sa mucosa, and in this case, it may protect the animals from gut infection. And also, another good consequence nito is that if mataas ang microbial fermentation, it will also stimulate the formation ng mga SCFA or yung mga short chain na fatty acids doon sa large intestine, whereby it will reduce now the luminal pH. Okay, the next one is the effect of dietary fiber utilization on embryo development and survival. So, in recent studies, yung dietary fiber supplementation, usually it improves the survival rate of sow embryos during pregnancy. So, yung mga oocytes, they are very sensitive to maternal nutrient levels. So, ano yung connect ng dietary fiber in embryo development? So, yung administration daw ng fiber ay nakakapag-promote siya ng maturation ng mga follicles and oocytes doon sa ovary ng sow. So, the modification of ovary function may be due to the dietary fiber fermentation products doon sa gut, and yung mga short chain fatty acids or what we call as the SCFA could bind with G protein coupled receptors and activate their downstream target proteins in the gut. And meron tayong pathway which we call it as the neuropeptide Y, which is intended for dietary fiber to regulate yung follicle maturation. So this may be the result now of the fermentation of dietary fiber by microorganisms in the intestine. So etong pathway na to is not only involved in feed intake regulation, but it is also related doon sa secretion ng gonadotrophin releasing hormone or the GnRH. So, ang nangyayari dito is yung high fiber diet, chine-change niya or ina-alter niya yung circulating concentrations of estradiol and luteinizing hormone, wherein etong mga hormone na to ay importante for oocyte maturation. So, etong study na to is also a manifestation na yung long-term feeding ng dietary fiber usually increases the total number of birth sows, whereas yung short-term feeding ay hindi. Kasi yung mga baboy na napakain ng dietary fiber na diet for a long period of time do not only retain a large reserve of primordial follicles, but they also create a better physiological environment for follicle maturation than those gilts and sows which are short-term fed. The next one is the utilization ng dietary fiber for the milk itself. So, we all know naman na during pregnancy and lactation ng mga baboy, the mammary gland is one of the most active tissues sa mga sows. And in order to provide ng enough nutrients sa mga kakapanganak na animals, a large amount of nutrients absorbed by the gut are transported to the mammary glands through the blood circulation to synthesize yung milk mismo. Now, although yung dietary fiber cannot use directly ng mga sows, pero yung fermentation product niya is an important source of nutrients for the milk synthesis. So, as what I've said a while back, the dietary fiber could be fermented by gut microorganisms to produce SCFA. And etong mga mammary glands, they are using SCFA as precursors for de novo synthesis of milk fat or yung synthesis ng mga complex molecules into simpler ones. And based doon sa studies ni Loisel and Fiera, when we try to compare yung mga group ng pigs which are fed ng low fiber diet into those group which are fed with high fiber diet, yung high fiber diet na group daw had an increased milk fat content doon sa kanilang colostrum. However, merong statement dito na sinasabi na yung effect ng dietary fiber on milk immunoglobulin secretion is inconsistent. This is because may dalawang studies dito wherein ang isa yung IgA and yung IgG ng colostrum ng sow na napakain ng high fiber diet ay na-reduce whereas yung isa naman ay nag-increase. So maybe those are still valid and significant pero ang varying factor na lang siguro is due to the different types of dietary fibers that were being supplemented to the animals. Now, another beneficial effects of the interaction between dietary fiber and gut microbes can be passed from the mother to the offspring. So there are various studies that are telling na yung dietary fiber can enhance the reproduction performance ng mga sows. So according to Wu et al. In 2020, yung mga gestational sows daw na may diet ng dietary fiber ay nag-increase yung number of live-born na piglets. So this is in support sa findings ni Fiera noong 2017 na yung mga short-term daw na napakain ng dietary fiber in the late pregnancy ay na-reduce yung proportion ng stillborn piglets and even yung total na mortality during the lactation period. However, malaking factor pa din na kailangan nating i-consider na yung effect ng dietary fiber sa reproduction performance ng mga sows ay nakadepende pa din doon sa physical conditions ng mga baboy at saka yung level na ibibigay natin sa kanila. Now, another data that proves na maganda ang utilization effect ng dietary fiber is during weaning period. This is in accordance with the study of Bloom et al. In 2009 na yung mga feeding sows daw na na-supplement ng dietary fiber for a long period significantly increase the number of weaned piglets per liter, yung weight of total litter birds, and yung weaning litter as well. So, as an implication of these results, we can see that yung mga baboy na napakain ng dietary fiber na added diets for a long time is more conducive in improving their production performance when we compare it sa mas mabilis na pagpapakain lang, and yung additional level ng fiber na diet can be appropriately increased with the extension of feeding time. So those are some of the dietary fiber findings from the swine. Now, next part of my discussion is yung role and effect naman ng utilization of dietary fiber among poultry animals, since I am already finished na doon sa swine. Now, first is the role of the dietary fiber in GIT development. So, despite being a monogastric animal, etong mga poultry natin, the GIT of poultry is different when we compare it into the pigs, since yung GIT nila is different from other species, as it is much shorter and lighter. However, if we try to look at it, it is relatively much longer if we will look at an animal in centimeter per kilogram of body weight, as well as it is heavier if ang basis din naman natin is gram per kilogram of body weight. So very important tong part na to, kasi as etong GIT as the site of digestion, it usually maximizes yung nutrient utilization to reduce yung mga substrate for bacteria and support the epithelial cell growth and differentiation. So according to Ja and Mishra in 2021, dietary fiber affects the length and weight of the GIT. So based sa kanila, there is a strong evidence that the differences in the weight of organs ng mga poultry ay highly related in the differences in the type of fiber na pinapakain natin sa kanila. Pero ang notable na findings nila is that kahit na mapalaki yung GIT or yung mga organs, like for example sa pea fiber, yung mga diets daw ng poultry with increasing levels ng pea fiber usually decrease the dry matter in droppings and increase yung excreta output relative to DM intake. So parang ang implication is that the digestibility of all nutrients also decrease with increasing fiber levels. So the adaptation to increase inclusion of dietary fiber levels increases now the size of the GIT, with pea fiber exerting a more substantial impact when we compare it sa mga wheat bran or yung mga oat bran. However, doon naman sa length ng intestine ng mga poultry natin, particularly the length and weight ng cecum, they are being increased depending on the fiber level sa diet nila. So anong mangyayari if ganito? So there will be an impact sa energy metabolism, since yung mga visceral organs have a high rate of energy expenditure relative to their size. And another one is that inclusion level, the inclusion of dietary fiber can increase the gizzard weight and content, as well as yung pH niya ay na-reduce. So ang perspective naman dito is that yung accumulation ng mga dietary fibers such as yung oat hull na particles doon sa gizzard, ini-stimulate niya yung grinding activity ng gizzard, which now allows for the better development ng mga muscular layers and causing an increase doon sa organ mismo. Now, another study on the GIT development from Kimei Talab, which concluded that all organs of the GIT were heavier and the small intestine and cecum were longer in broiler than pullets when feeding with same high fiber containing na meal, since of course with greater na GIT capacity na to. So they have also another conclusion wherein if there is an increase in the weight of the GIT, this is an important mechanism to pancreatic enzyme secretion to achieve better growth in poultry during the early stage of their lives. Now, another study is the study of Clan et al. In 2003, wherein turkey hens at three ages were fed with three different na crude fiber dietary concentrations in order to find out the possibility of using high fiber diets in their rations. So it was found out on the results that high dietary crude fiber intake enhance total small intestine length and surface area among turkey hens between 11 and 14 weeks. So they have concluded that turkeys can use crude fiber slightly and concentrations of 60 gram of fiber per kilogram in the diet did not cause reduced performance after the age of 6 weeks. Now, in terms of these, and in terms of the relative weight and length of their small intestine, it was recorded also, it was observed that there is no extensive change among the treatment groups wherein dietary fiber, of course, was supplemented. So in this case, it can be concluded that dietary fiber, when it comes to GIT development, usually depends on the type of poultry species as well as ano yung age group nila. Also, another study was conducted on the effect of MASH dietary fiber and performance and cannibalism among laying hens. So dito, for a period of 12 weeks, etong guargum diet, which is a wheat-based diet, at saka yung lucerne meal, which is also a wheat-based diet, were given as treatments for dietary fibers sa mga laying hens. So based on the findings ng mga researchers, they have found out that with these two dietary fiber na na-supplement sa diet ng mga poultry, the effect of diets on a feed to egg ratio as well as cannibalism mortality was not significant. However, yung mga researchers, ang conclusion nila dito, kung bakit not significant is that merong lacking ng deep variations na nagiging sanhi for it since the diet was given in mash form. So, as a summary, yung mga diets consisting of high soluble na non-starch polysaccharides decrease the performance and raise the mortality because of cannibalism among laying hens. So perhaps yung application ng mash, yung mash form, might potentially decline the negative effect of soluble na non-starch polysaccharides on cannibalism. So yun yung takeaway points ng mga researchers for this study. Now, meron ding study na nangyari on the effects of different sources of dietary fiber and the growth performance and apparent digestibility in geese. So, there are various treatments na ginamit dito such as yung alfalfa meal, yung barley bran, yung rice hulls or yung purified na cellulose. Meron ding lignin at pectin as their main source of fiber. So based on their findings, the sources of dietary fiber could not extensively influence the feed conversion, and the sources of dietary fiber failed to influence the relative ratio of different volatile fatty acids. Now, utilization of nutrients, okay, may vary on the components of dietary fiber present in the supplied feed as well as the function of the gut. So, dito, the fiber solubility and water holding capacity, usually dinedetermine niya itong viscosity and fermentability impacts that could lower yung gut utilization and health. So yung high viscosity will decrease the rate of endogenous enzyme diffusion into the digesta, which will reduce nutrient digestion. And in addition, some reports say na that highly viscous digesta will have less interaction with the brush border membrane enzymes, which also decrease digestibility and nutrient utilization. Now, in the study of Sadeghi et al., it was revealed that chickens supplemented with dietary fiber showed lower daily weight gain at the age of 14 to 28. Now, ang nakita nila na dahilan is because of the increased viscosity ng digesta due to the soluble dietary fiber pectin found doon sa treatment. And it result in lower enzyme diffusion into the digestum and decrease interaction of the digestum with the intestinal tract surface. Additionally, nakita din ng mga researchers na yung mga chickens ay may shorter na villi height doon sa duodenum and ileum, which indicates a reduced nutrient absorptive capacity na. So based from this one, these effects can be offset by supplementing exogenous enzymes, which increase the digestibility of high dietary fiber feedstuffs. Now, gaya ng sabi ko kanina, yung dietary fiber has been seen to have a positive effect on gizzard development. So, some researchers found out that rice feeding improve the total tract apparent retention of nutrients and feed conversion of the birds during its starter phase. So, the fiber in the diet was found to increase the gizzard weight and activity, which is evident in better digestion and nutrient utilization. So meron ding nagsabi na yung dietary fiber levels affected the development of the upper GIT of the goslings when yung grit was supplemented to improve yung grinding activity ng gizzard and also improve digestion and nutrient absorption. Now, another dietary fiber ay yung mga prebiotic fibers, which can not only be used to improve growth performance but also to increase nutrient utilization. So yung study ni Holzman and in-investigate niya yung ability ng mga prebiotics to compensate for calcium deficiency sa mga poultry diets. Pero na-found out niya na yung prebiotic supplemented diet had no deficiency effects if low calcium in the diets, while si taco naman, yung mga prebiotic extracts from wheat grains were able to increase the beneficial microorganisms in the poultry gut and iron absorption in both in vivo and in vitro conditions. Now, if merong magandang dulot ang dietary fiber, there are also some adverse effects of dietary fiber sa poultry. So sabi sa mga articles na nabasa ko, yung feeding of fiber to poultry has generally been discouraged primarily because of the adverse effects that fiber usually exerts on performance and nutrient utilization kasi some components in plants cannot benefit the GIT of poultry such as yung cellulose and hemicellulose, they are not well digested. Also, the inclusion of high fiber ingredients is usually limited because of the poor metabolizable energy contents. Although there are some adverse effects, etong inattach ko na table, these are some of the effects of dietary fibers on the gut health of poultry. So this is from their inclusion level This is from their inclusion level, yung specific species ng poultry, and yung response ng mga to from the dietary fiber supplements. Now, as a conclusion of my topic, dietary fiber usually plays an important role, most especially on the gut microbiota among the different non-ruminant animals, since the application value ng dietary fiber in improving the satiety of sows is being recognized na in the past. However, there are some reports that suggest that dietary fiber has many other benefits in the production of pigs, most especially on the sows. And as what I've said, that these nutrients are beneficial in the intestines of these animals. And the application of dietary fiber is being valued now since there is a reduction on the use of antibacterial drugs in the world already. And as what I have presented a while back, dietary supplementation of fiber can change the abundance and diversity of gut microbiota. Thereby, it can promote yung gut health and reduce the need for antibiotics. So, in addition, uh, the application of dietary fiber to sow diets provide an open opportunity to improve the sow production and reproduction in various aspects. However, there are still many problems that need to be resolved, such that yung source ng dietary fiber is rich, but the composition is complex, which makes it difficult to determine a reference standard in the production. Then second, yung understanding ng tao about gut microbes, mostly nag-i-stay siya at the level ng phylum at genus, which makes it difficult to isolate the key bacteria related to dietary fiber supplementation. So, in this case, although yung dietary fiber and gut microbes play an important role in improving the performance of sows, um, there are still a lot of data that are needed to explain and the regulation mechanism, such which of course will be answered by various researches in the future. Now, in the case of poultry, one of the present challenges in animal nutrition uh, is to improve yung utilization of natural fiber sources, especially during the highly sensitive neonatal and weaning stages of life. So, in this context, yung moderate levels ng dietary fiber in the diet for poultry seem to be very beneficial for bird health. And although, as what I've said kanina, dietary fiber was considered as anti-nutritional factor in the past, there is still an increasing interest in their use in poultry nutrition due to some of the benefits. So just like in the pigs, the inclusion of dietary fiber, as long as this is in appropriate amount, it usually promotes gastrointestinal tract development and gut health parameters, including the beneficial microbiota. However, just in totality, I think in this case, there is still a gap of knowledge that remains in the underlying mechanism of how the different types of fibers affect the gut health of poultry and pigs. And also, as a point of view, this is very important then to study the effect of these dietary fibers inclusion in poultry and swine diets from an economic and environmental point of view, which I think will have a practical significance. So this now ends my presentation on the dietary fiber utilization among the non-ruminants, most specifically on the poultry and swine diets. So thank you very much po.